Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Lavazza, for being so great at making espressos. Thank you. Thank you. Just your beans are phenomenal. All right. We'll move to this Spanish airline saying a new breach claims ties back to a November incident that they've already talked about. A threat actor is touting a fresh data sale, but the carrier says it mapped it to the November compromise. This is Iberia, the Spanish national airline, um, which is saying that this was a November compromise already disclosed and contained. Translation, it's just a repackaged, dumped. And I constantly say this whenever you see someone out there saying, I've got a new data dump from company X, and we've talked about it a lot this week. I think this is the third or fourth story where the company says, old news, we have no incidents in our environment. This is old data or honeypot data, right? Threat actors by nature dabble in crime. And last I check, the crime code of conduct isn't exactly known for its honesty and truthfulness. So this repackaged data dump could be harmful for customers if it's the old data being hashed as new data, because now their data is being sold again. But that's no difference. The victims can't control it. The customers whose data was compromised can't control it because they're going to rehash the data. And you have threat actors out there that will grab various data and try to rehash it and sell it as well. The sales of data in the dark web is an actual kind of like bread and butter type of business. It's primarily how they make their money. So you have to understand this. Targeted reminders around this, folks, just from a hygiene perspective. Password resets, MFA, obviously monitor refund and loyalty scams, because whenever you have a incident like this one, typically they're looking to kind of cash out, and where they look to cash out is on loyalty points, where they kind of cash those in and the customers don't even know. So, and then you have an issue with the customer and you end up eating the loss, right? So don't do that. Just monitor it for cash out. Create a better process, right? Monitor for credential stuffing against your booking, loyalty, and partner portals. And you should be stepping up authentication on risky logins. That'll help you deal with the more and more data sales happening there. An Illinois state agency had their data exposed. That data is of 700,000 residents of the state of Illinois. The state agency left information accessible, according to initial indications, point to a misconfiguration rather than any sort of high-skill exploitation, which is typical in cases like this. The exposed data can still fuel unemployment and benefits fraud, like we need more of that in the country, as well as identity theft. You should immediately do an asset inventory, access reviews. By the way, this is the Illinois Department of Human Services, literally the people overseeing welfare and Medicaid and all of that good stuff. So they're going to have to step up in a state that's known for corruption, by the way. So not exactly comforting for Illinois state taxpayer and then federal taxpayers, because we're seeing the amount of fraud every day in the news here, and it's just mind-boggling of how incompetent some elected officials are. So access reviews on externally reachable storages like your S3 buckets. Turn on object level logging as well as auto public bucket detection, as well as require MFA for all admins, which you should already do. That's a best practice, as well as separate admin logins, right? So the user's personal login should never be his admin login as well, and rotate any embedded keys in any scripts to really kind of do the right move there when it comes to that as well. Again, 700,000 residents, and it impacted 672,616 Medicaid and Medicare Saving Program recipients. So again, high risk of fraud there. Okay, yesterday we talked about the UK government cyber action plan. We kind of gave you a high level. Today we're going to dig into it. So let's get right into this plan that was released on January 6th of this year. The UK releasing a sweeping government cyber action plan. Some people are calling it bold, others are calling it heavy-handed. I call it the truth. There's a lot of truth in this document, by the way, like rare truth from the British government. Rare truth from the British government. So let's talk a little bit about what the UK plan actually is and how it actually stacks up against other national cyber strategies. All right. So first, what the UK gets right, the plan is brutally honest. It admits government cyber risk is critically high, that legacy systems are a national liability, and that decentralized ownership has failed. The response is clear there. They want central authority, mandatory standards, and named accountability, as well as real funding. Okay. So they're trying to build an operating model here. All right. That's what it kind of comes down to, is they're kind of working on an operating model, trying to get the best of all of these places. But building a government cyber unit like CISA is one thing. A government CISO is another. You got to establish authority for that CISO, and what do they oversee? A formal cyber profession is another one. Clear escalation path. I agree with that one, and measurable milestones. All of those did not exist before, by the way. None of that existed before. But there's more. If fragmentation and technical debt are your biggest enemies, which they are in the UK, this model does make sense. But there are trade-offs. When they do heavy centralization, that carries a lot of risk, because incompetence in government is common. If you haven't, go back 2 minutes and read our other story. Incompetence in government exists, meaning once you centralize and you don't have a federated system, you essentially end up that if you put an incompetent in that position and they hire incompetent people, you lose all power of that centralization, because it becomes incompetent to do anything. As well, decision making becomes slow. Innovations could get constrained, and everything would depend on sustained political will. If leadership changes or even funding dries up, the model weakens quickly. If we look at the US model, which is more federated, agencies like CISA coordinate, but they don't command. The strength here is flexibility, scale, and public-private collaboration. The weakness, there's inconsistent maturity and fuzzy accountability. But the system is resilient because you've got NSA, CIA, Cyber Command, you've got DHS, TSA. Can't believe I just said that, but yeah, TSA. I mean, you have a lot of different bodies that all dabble in cyber, the Department of Energy, and so much more. So that federation, rather than centralization, allows that even if CISA, which CISA hasn't really functioned this year because they really haven't had a leader, they haven't had a confirmed leader until just right before Christmas. So they went 370 some odd days without 340 some odd days without having a actual permanent director because of politics. So the system is resilient because it proved itself to be resilient even in political impasse. That may not be the case in the UK system. There's also the EU with the NIS2, which is an excellent at raising the floor, but it forces minimum standards, management accountability, and supply chain controls, but compliance doesn't equal resilience. And we see that with Europe. So, there's that. Israel, on the other hand, takes a different path altogether. It's intelligence-led, fast, security first. They have a 911 number for cybersecurity incidents, where any business in Israel that's going through a cyber incident can call the national CERT and get a team to help them actually deal and mitigate the incident as it's happening in real time, because they understand that they need to keep the economy running, and any sort of setback to small business has impact on essentially the revenue that the government is supposed to earn. So they see that as a national service. Now, Israel is a small country, 10 million people, and a lot of people there do, 80% of the people there do military. So if 80% of the people there serve in the military, there's a natural trust with some of these institutions that doesn't exist in nations that don't force it. So there's that. But again, civilian governance plays a smaller role in Israel. When we look at Singapore, it's the opposite extreme. They're highly centralized, they're highly disciplined, they're highly effective, but they're built for smaller, tightly governed state like Singapore. So the UK plan optimizes for control and execution, in my opinion. The US does optimize for scale and adaptability. The EU optimizes for consistency. Israel optimizes for speed. Singapore optimizes for precision. But all in all, this is a trade-off. It's a good plan forward. I don't see a lot of people adopting the UK model altogether, but it's there. You've got it. All right. We'll continue to move. We've got more stories here. Australia releases a national anti-scam framework. Critics saying big exclusions remain out of the framework. Industry voices argue that key scam vectors like certain platforms and even financial rails aren't fully covered within this new framework, risking fragmented defenses. Treat the framework as a floor, not a ceiling. If you're in Australia, you should stand up enterprise-side transaction holds and beneficiary change callbacks, as well as brand abuse takedowns, regardless of the regulatory pace of this framework. The framework on itself is more lip service than anything else. Okay, this one is big, folks. An alleged cyber scam kingpin was arrested in Cambodia and extradited to China. So Chen Zi is the head of the Cambodia-based conglomerate Prince Group, a high-profile businessman who rose quickly during the 2010s real estate boom. He reportedly became a Cambodian citizen in 2014, received a royal honorific Nik Okahana in 2020 after large donations. Prince's Group's holdings span real estate, banking, entertainment, and airline. What he's accused of, the US-UK actions last fall tied Chen and Prince Group to a multi-billion-dollar scamming empire built on illegal online gambling, sextortion, money laundering, and the industrial scale trafficking of humans in those scam call centers, torture, extortion of enslaved workers, operating at least 10 scam compounds in Cambodia. The Department of Justice indicted Chen and seized a record 15 billion in Bitcoin across 25 accounts. The UK moved to confiscate dozens of properties allegedly linked to the operation. He was arrested in Cambodia and extradited to China, which experts say keeps the case within Beijing's legal system rather than sending him to the West. Prince Group has publicly denied all of these allegations, but nonetheless, I don't know if this, to me personally, this seems like China's covering up for him. He is a Chinese national. China doesn't want him going there. They're likely protecting him and using influence on Cambodia to do that. Because if he went to the U.S. and the CCP was in on a lot of these scams, that's a bad day for the CCP on the global stage. I mean, they've already lost their puppy Maduro in Venezuela. The Ayatollah in Iran is staring down the barrel of 4 to 9 million people in the streets every night saying death to the dictator. So China's not having a good year at all. All right. VMware ESXi is being exploited via a turnkey toolkit here, folks. The new attacker kit is streamlining targeting of unpatched ESXis, often chaining old CVEs with weak management exposure. ESXi equals crown jewel compute, folks. So you want to patch the supported builds. No public management. Isolate vSphere and vCenter behind VPN and IP allow list. Rotate your data store and vCenter credentials and alert on snapshot burst and sudden VM encryption behavior. All of that goes a long way there as well. We'll move to Chrome extensions here. This one, significant. A Chrome extension with over 900,000 installs was caught stealing AI chats. The extension AI Helper exfiltrated conversations, content, and even tokens. That's intellectual property leakage for any team pasting code, designs, or even draft deals into web UIs. You should lock corporate Chrome to an allow list, disable unsanctioned extensions for AI tooling, prefer enterprise tenants with DLP and retention controls, and educate users on assume web chats are not private. That will go a long way there. We'll continue with the critical JS PDF flaw. Secrets can get stolen via generated PDFs. The maliciously crafted PDFs generated by the vulnerable JS PDF can exfiltrate data, tokens, and even internal content when viewed. Pin and update JS PDF across all apps. Add content security policy to block rogue outbound calls from viewers, and route untrusted PDFs to sandbox viewers. Treat inline PDF rendering as executable content. That'll help get that taken care of. OwnCloud is now urging users to enable MFA on their accounts. They haven't done that up until now, so they're catching up. Better late than never. Black Cat or Alpha V. Let's get into this one here, folks. So orgs are reporting stolen credentials, enabling file exfiltration, enforce phishing-resistant MFA on your own cloud environment, rotate all admin and service creds, and audit for bulk downloads as well as shares and any unusual public links. Put own cloud admin behind VPN and IP allow list, which you should do on all your critical applications. So Black Cat and Alpha V still operating in the realm with SEO poisoning malware delivery. Search results seeded with Trojanized downloads, lure admins, and even power users. Initial access then moves to double extortion. You want to block ads of unknown and downloaded sites. Prefer publisher stores. EDR tuned for LOL bin chains like Macheta, Run DLL 32, and PowerShell. Least privilege on endpoints, blunt installer abuse will all go a long way there. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back on Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern with a lot more. Tomorrow, our weekly news summary is available at cyberhubpodcast.com and the CyberHub Podcast LinkedIn page. You can go there and sign up for the newsletter in either place, whatever your preference is. Saturday, our Saturday article will be dropping. We're going to be talking a little bit about the UK cyber government action plan. We're going to compare that to Australia's scam fraud network and kind of, all right, 26, they want to push all these frameworks out. Let's see what it actually means. So all of that will be available at cyberhubpodcast.com Saturday, Sunday. So go check it out there. And then we'll be back Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern with more news. Until then, have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.